The wind carried dust across the endless plains as the sun began to dip behind the hills of Willow Creek. Clara, Marin sat at the front of an old wooden wagon. The reins tight in her hands, her children sitting quietly in the back. The horse trotted slowly, its breath heavy after a long day of travel. Clara's life had changed drastically over the past year. Once she had been the wife of a wealthy landowner with everything a woman in the territory could want: fine furniture, servants, and a grand house that stood proudly by the river. But when her husband died unexpectedly, his greedy relatives swooped in, taking nearly everything under the claim of legal right. By the time Clara fought to keep what was hers, all that remained was a small cabin at the far edge of town, a wagon, and the 2 children who were her heart and strength. Jonah, 12, was quiet and serious, too old for his age, while Lila, 7, still found wonder in every small thing despite the hardships around them. That evening they were returning from town, where Clara had tried to sell jars of jam and baskets of eggs. The sun had nearly gone when Jonah suddenly pointed to something lying across the road ahead. "Mama, there is someone there," he said. Clara's heart quickened. She pulled the reins, slowing the horse. As they drew near, she saw it was a man sprawled face down in the dirt. His clothes were torn, his boots scuffed, and his hat lay beside him covered in dust. Clara climbed down quickly, motioning for her children to stay put. She knelt beside the stranger and turned him gently. His face was pale, lips cracked, and his skin burned with fever. She pressed her fingers to his neck and felt the faintest pulse. He was alive, but barely. Clara's instinct was to help, though she had little to offer. "Jonah, bring me the water jug," she said. The boy hurried over and she lifted the man's head, trickling a few drops of water between his lips until he swallowed weakly. "What happened to him?" Mama Lila whispered, clutching her mother's sleeve. "I do not know, dear, but we cannot leave him here," Clara answered. She and Jonah struggled to lift the man into the wagon bed. He was heavy, but together they managed, spreading the blanket beneath him. They rode home slowly, the horse tired, the wagon creaking under the added weight. When they reached their small cabin, Clara and Jonah carried the man inside. She laid him on her bed and covered him with her only warm quilt. His breathing rattled as she cleaned the dirt from his face with a damp cloth and whispered soft prayers. Through the night, she tended him, spooning bits of broth between his lips and wiping the sweat from his forehead. At dawn, his eyes flickered open, confused and glassy. "Where am I?" he croaked. "You are safe now," Clara said softly. "My children and I found you on the road." He blinked as if trying to remember. "Name is Reed," he murmured. "Reed Hawthorne." Clara froze. The name was known throughout the county. Reed Hawthorne had once owned one of the largest cattle ranches in Willow Creek. 2 years ago, his ranch burned to ashes after a mysterious fire, killing most of his livestock. Rumors said he lost everything and disappeared. Clara kept her surprise hidden. "Do you remember what happened to you?" she asked gently. Reed's eyes closed as he spoke. "I was riding through the flats last night. A couple of drifters came from nowhere. Thought I had money. Beat me and left me for dead." Clara shook her head. "You are safe now. Rest." For 3 days he lay weak while Clara cared for him. Jonah fetched water from the well and Lila brought fresh herbs from the field. Slowly Reed's strength returned. By the end of the week he was sitting up and eating bread dipped in broth. "You did not have to save me," Reed said one afternoon. Clara smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I could not leave a man to die." Reed studied her face, the quiet resolve in her eyes. "Why help a stranger when you have so little yourself?" he asked. "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything," she replied. "And because kindness is all I have left to give." Reed said nothing more, but there was something in his gaze that lingered long after. Within days, Reed began helping around the cabin. He repaired the leaky roof, fixed the wagon wheel, and built a new chicken coop for Jonah. The boy followed him everywhere, eager to learn. Lila brought him wildflowers every morning, and he always thanked her as if she had given him gold. One evening, as the sun set, Reed stood by the corral watching Jonah feed the chickens. Clara joined him with a cup of coffee in her hands. "You've done more work in a week than I could in months," she said. He smiled slightly. "It feels good to be useful again. I lost that feeling for a long time." She nodded, understanding. After a pause, he said quietly, "I need to tell you something, Clara. I was not just a ranch hand before. I own land. Big land. Until someone burned me out. It was no accident. A man named McClary wanted my property. Could not prove it then, but he took what he wanted. I left because I had nothing left to fight for. Clara looked at him with sympathy. Loss does not make you weak, Reed. It makes you human. He gave a small nod and looked away. That night, as the wind howled outside, Clara found herself thinking about Reed. He carried pain like her own, quiet but deep. Over the next few weeks, the cabin grew warmer not just from the repaired stove or the new roof, but from laughter that had been missing for so long. Reed taught Jonah how to mend rope and Lila how to whistle through her hands. Clara watched them and felt something stir inside her she thought had died long ago hope. Then one afternoon a knock came at the door. Sheriff Thompson stood there with his hat in hand. Afternoon, Clara. I came looking for Reed Hawthorne. Reed stepped forward tense. What is it, Sheriff? Thompson pulled papers from his coat. The man who set your ranch fire has confessed. Signed statement and all. Turns out McClary bragged about it after too much whiskey. Your land and any remaining funds are yours again. Reed stared in shock. The sheriff nodded, handing him the papers. You can reclaim it as soon as you're ready. The pasture that borders this cabin is part of it. Congratulations, Reed. After the sheriff left, Reed sat quietly staring at the papers. Clara touched his arm. You have your life back, she said softly. Reed looked at her eyes dark with something more than gratitude. Clara, I do not want the life I had. I want the one I found here with you and the children. She froze. Reed, you hardly know us, she whispered. I know enough, he said. You saved my life when you had no reason to. You gave me a home when I had none. I have spent years chasing wealth and land only to learn it means nothing without someone to share it with. Clara's eyes filled with tears. Reed, this family is all I have. We have little to offer. He took her hand gently. You have given me everything that matters. Let me give something back. Let me rebuild this place for you, for Jonah and Lila, for all of us. Jonah and Lila stood in the doorway watching wide-eyed. Mama, let him stay, Jonah said softly. Lila nodded, smiling shyly. Clara looked between them and Reed. Her heart swelled with warmth she could no longer deny. Finally, she whispered, then stay. From that day on, Reed did not leave. Together, they rode out to his old ranch where the blackened fences still stood like ghosts against the prairie. Reed cleared the land, rebuilt the barn, and sowed fresh grass. Clara and the children helped hauling boards and planting flowers. Slowly, life returned to the place. By summer, they had chickens, grazing horses, and a garden full of corn and beans. Reed built Clara a porch swing where they sat every evening watching the sunset. One night he turned to her and said softly, Clara, I once dreamed of wealth and cattle and power, but none of it ever gave me peace. You and these children did. You made me remember who I am. She smiled through tears. And you showed us that miracles still happen. Months later, word spread through Willow Creek that the poor widow and the broken rancher had built something stronger than fortune. They had built a family. The ranch thrived again under both their names, and laughter echoed through the valley where silence once reigned. Clara Marin, who once believed she had lost everything, discovered she had gained far more than gold or land. She'd found a partner who honored her strength, 2 children who finally had a father's love, and a home built not from wealth but from kindness and second chances. And as the years rolled on, those who passed through Willow Creek often spoke of the widow and the rancher who saved each other and proved that even in the hardest soil, love could take root and grow forever.